Bienvenidos a otra transmisión de Panorama, Marítimo y Logístico, y en esta ocasión con el apoyo de la Facultad de Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad Tecnológica. Welcome to another stream from Panorama, Marítimo y Logístico with the support from Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá. Dr. Martín Candanedo, Dean of Civil Engineering Colleges from Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá, saying some welcoming words.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon to you, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Buenos días, buenas tardes para el señor Paul Baker. For us in UTP, it's an extremely pleasure to have this opportunity to share the knowledge and experience from Mr. Paul Baker as a General Manager of the Southampton Terminal Wellness Solution. He's going to share with us a very important experience from a very important port in Europe as the gateway entrance for European transportation. Buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. Para nosotros es un extremo placer el poder compartir las experiencias que nos va a proporcionar el señor Paul Baker en este momento con respecto a el puerto de Southampton como entrada al transporte marítimo de Europa. Conozco personalmente la ciudad de Southampton y sé de lo importante y relevante que es el puerto en materia del manejo de cargas para Europa. Quiero hacer un reconocimiento también al Panorama Marítimo Logístico, a esta revista, por dar la oportunidad a la Universidad Tecnológica también de estar en contacto con la industria y poder generar este espacio de intercambio de experiencias que son muy gratificantes para nuestros estudiantes, profesores. Así que muchas gracias también para la profesora María del Carmen Vargas, que nos ha ayudado y nos colabora siempre dentro de la facultad, y sabemos de su liderazgo dentro de la industria del transporte marítimo. Estamos seguros que esta experiencia va a repercutir de manera profunda en todos nosotros. Me cuento dentro de esos beneficiados en esta experiencia, así que les exhorto a que anoten todas sus preguntas para que podamos aún más aprender y transformar esa experiencia del señor Paul Baker en nuestros propios aprendizajes. Así que muchas gracias a todos y bienvenidos a la Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá y a Panorama Marítimo Logístico. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, profesor, por las palabras de bienvenida. Gracias a ustedes, a la Universidad Tecnológica, por habernos dado la oportunidad de hacer algo en conjunto para la industria. In this streaming, we also accompanied by Ms. Mari Carmen Barrios, who is Senior Vice President for Ports, Terminals, and Shipbuilding, Euro, Africa, and Middle East, Walena Wilhelmsen. Bienvenida, Mari Carmen.
Muchísimas gracias, Michelle, y por crear estos espacios de intercambio de conocimiento entre la industria y la academia.
Gracias, Mari Carmen, como siempre apoyando a la industria. Before the presentation by Paul Baker, I will present a series of short video from our sponsors.
En Panama Ports iniciamos hace 25 años y hoy somos claves en el crecimiento económico y competitivo del país, siendo el inversionista más grande del sector portuario, generando empleos con los salarios más altos del sector, con pagos directos al Estado y aportes a la economía por 6.000 millones de balboas. Panama Ports ha contribuido a que el país sea un centro marítimo fundamental para el mundo y se convierte en el hub logístico de las Américas. Nuestro compromiso sigue para que cada día el país avance. Panama Ports.
En DEPSA Panamá trabajamos las 24 horas, los 365 días del año. Somos una empresa 100% panameña dedicada a proveer descarga, alimento y despacho de productos a granel, convirtiéndonos en un engranaje de la industria avícola, porcina y ganadera. Con la mejor posición geográfica para el manejo de embarques, la terminal granelera más grande y especializada de todo el país. DEPSA Panamá, unidos desde la provincia de Colón, comprometidos con el desarrollo del país.
The presentation by Paul Baker, General Manager of Southampton Terminal, will be in English. Afterwards, we will have some questions for Mr. Baker to answer. Mr. Baker, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, firstly, thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about Southampton. What I'd like to try and do really is give you a bit of a corporate overview of WW, just so everyone's kind of aware, but then really focus on Southampton and what makes us who we are and what we are. So I'll carry on. So I'll just get my.
Okay.
One of the things that we do within a group is we WW are very aware of our position in the world in terms of not just as a company but also as our impact on the world. We're operating over 100 vessels around the globe. We touch many different countries and many different continents, but we look to do that logistics in a sustainable way. So this is really just a slide that we use internally, which just sets the pace of how we see the business in terms of we take the understanding that the world will continue to surprise us. I'm sure we all have customers that we've dealt with that all of a sudden change, and we've got logistics is all part about moving with that. So this is really one of our kind of main points. And what we've done really is we've set ourselves 4 pathways, and these pathways then lead us into other areas which are more specific business or continent specific, that really we use as our platform and our kind of our compass, for want of a better word. And the first one obviously is driving operational effectiveness, and that really is focused on what do we do, how smart do we do it, and how much smarter can we do it. We're very focused on putting technology in the hands of people. I think the challenge we've got, and every port's got this challenge, it's a people business. So rather than having a real obsession about finding technology that replaces people, which we do where we can, but we actually look more of putting the technology in the hands of the people so that they can be much more effective and feel much more part of the whole kind of process. We're also looking at our second pathway is expanding the kind of the life cycle. So at the moment, we are perceived in the marketplace as a ship operator and as a terminal operator. But what we're much more focused on now, and have been for a good few years, of moving up and down people's supply chain. So how can we become more of a true partner to an OEM? How can we move into their production environment? How can we move down their supply chain into VPC and EPC? So not only are we shipping the cars and high and heavy, but we're actually preparing it for market. We also look at digitizing the supply chain. So again, this is very much about how do we put technology in the hands of the people? And that also is how do we have the technology in our vessels? We've got a very large project on how we communicate with our ships while they're at sea. How can we get that real-time information to them and the real-time information back? And that's very much, some of you may have seen recently the vessel that you can see there now actually is going to become a real vessel. We make a very crazy statement, but very true statement that we're actually going back to sails. So, where WW started, we had sailing ships. We're not far off going back to that, but very different sailing ships. So those 4 kind of areas really interact, and the cycles work both ways. We look at operational effectiveness. That will allow us to move up and down a company's supply chain. It allows us to do that by digitizing the supply chain, and along the way it leads us to a journey to zero emissions. So these are very much the kind of guiding principles, and there is a series of actions below each of these principles which we've adopted as a business. One of the big things of WW is our culture compass, and this was one thing that when I came to the company kind of made me attracted to the company, really, because it makes it clear to everybody in the business that we trust them. We trust them to do their best, but we ask them to be honest, and we ask them to build a relationship that's one of joint benefit. we ask them to use their imagination. We ask them to always say, what if? What if I could do this differently? What if I could do, and be very curious. You know, a lot of the best ideas that we've got have come from the ground up by someone on the terminal saying, why do you do that like this? Why don't you do that? You know, we use it, and for an Englishman, it's a very American word, candor. But what we actually ask people to do is communicate without fear, you know, and really be an open culture where we ask people to really say what they think, but in a positive way, not in a destructive way, but in a very positive way. We talk about speed not in terms of we do things very quickly so we can make more money. We're saying, let's put speed and pace into our daily operation. Let's make decisions fast, but let them be based on fact. And to be honest, we also ask ourselves to fail fast and learn quick, because we can, you know, we want to move on. We want to build a development. And all that means that we need courage. So we ask people to speak up, but be honest. Actually take yourself outside your comfort zone at least once a day. I ask my people to do that. You know, get a bit daring every day and go, well, what if I did something different? So that's really our culture compass. A little bit about the group. The group is as it sees there. You know, we are one group, which is WW. We are embarking on a program at the moment of trying to get our 4 brands to be one face to the market, because we believe that's a much better way of presenting ourselves. You know, we are 4 brands, but we are one company. This is the usual slide that everyone uses of the, you know, the great and the good that we work with on a daily basis, and we're proud to add to that slide on a regular basis. If you look at it as a group, you know, I'm privileged to work with 9,499 other people who I can call on every hour of every day for guidance. You know, some of those figures there, I will let you kind of absorb, but that's the scale of Wilhelmsen as a group. If we look at the group that Mary-Carmen and I work in, which is Solutions, which in effect is the land-based part of WW, we are 7,000 of those 9,000 people. So we're by far the biggest. So our impact on land is much bigger than our impact on sea. And that is, you know, we're handling about 7.5 million cars through vehicle processing centers. You know, the figures speak for themselves. You know, it's the slide that we put up proudly and say we're a serious player. You know, we're a good partner. If I move on to Southampton, the sunny city of Southampton, you know, it is the UK's the number one vehicle handling port. It has one of the most productive container ports, and we've got connections globally. It is a mainline calling port, so we are a combination of a mainline call and a feeder port. But we, you know, from a car carrying perspective, we have both. We have ocean calling and intra-European. This is a kind of schematic of the terminal. If I go back to the previous slide, this is actually our terminal. So as you can see, we're kind of a bit like Venice in Italy. We've got one road in and one road out, and we're surrounded on 3 sides by water. So that is one of the challenges that we have. So this is the terminal as a peninsula. As you can see, you know, we've got our own rail corridor, which comes in, and there are our own dedicated sidings. We have specific areas for break bulk and heavy lift keys. We have traditional key cranes here for handling cargo. Something that we've done in the UK, I'd never heard of BMSB before I came to WW. Now it invades my life every day. It's basically an invasive species of bug that the Australian government are trying to keep out. So everything that goes into Australia in a certain part of the year needs to be treated. And this is done by fooling the bugs into thinking it's time to wake up. So if they are concealed anywhere within the vehicle, they'll wake up and they will fly out, and then they will be, the heat will kill them. We've built that facility. Although the UK is not yet listed as a country on the required treatment list, we believe it's only a matter of time. So we've built that ahead of the market. And again, that's probably a feature of WW. We tend to try and be ahead of the game. The rest really are storage areas. We operate an import center for BMW. So the majority of the BMWs coming into the UK, we handle, we store, prepare for onward dispatch to dealers. We've got an auto receiving pad where we're receiving exports in. We rail receive. And as I said, Southampton is very different because as a terminal, we actually operate multi-story car parks or to store in. Because we're on a peninsula, we need to make the most of our land bank. I would love to say that the air is free, but unfortunately the Port Authority know that they can charge for the air as well as the ground. So even though we've got multi-stories, they've concocted a way to charge us for multi-stories. This really is an overall picture of WW's process. So, you know, we're known for being the shipping element, but obviously we've got the port of discharge terminal operation, which is where my operation is. We're also involved in inland distribution, both collecting and distributing, and we're also in the plants. You know, at the moment we've got a number of tenders in the UK where we will have WW people at the end of the production line, so we can have stewardship of the product all the way through. And then obviously at the other side, we've got terminals in country of arrival, and the process there goes on. So as I say, we're trying to look at being a partner in all these elements of the supply chain. So if I look at Southampton, this is the famous multi-story car park. So the analogy I would use, it's a bit like going to a shopping mall. So if you imagine going to the shopping mall and parking your car, we have all the same challenges that are there. You know, they are good because you can, as you can see there, we've got kind of, you know, 5 and 6 levels that we can park cars on, but it is a stanchion construction, so you've got some restrictions. If in Southampton, we've got obviously the ability here to probably hold about 300 cars at any one time. We've done some, again, working with the technology, we've widened our lanes, our receiving lanes, to work with our photo booths, which I'll mention later on. We're in the process now of putting an electronic gate system in so that the driver actually just comes up to the gate, keys his information in, and once he keys his load number in, we will receive all the data from his load directly into our terminal operating system. I think the learning we've had from this is our most vulnerable area, because when it's full, and we've got to move. So that's the bottleneck for the terminal. So on a day-to-day basis, one of our key learnings is don't lose sight of this area. This is the bottleneck, and this is the area that really needs to have a really keen focus on. And that again comes back to putting the technology in the hands of the people. People can only move cars at the rate that people can move cars safely. But if we give them the technology that allows them to make smarter decisions, walk less distance, drive less distance, then that's where the technology really helps the person rather than try and replace the person. As I say, we use multi-stories. Within Southampton, we've got 5. We can store within those 10,000 autos at any one time. We have access to a further 1,500 spaces. It's great usage of ground space, but it does come with challenges. Again, I draw people back to the shopping mall analogy. You know, how many of us have been in shopping malls and drove around quite a while thinking, God, that space is tight, I'm going to look somewhere else. We have the same challenges because we handle cars from, as you can see there, the largest Range Rover down to a Mini, and the spaces are the same size. We also handle in Southampton what we call high and heavy, which is anything that's tracked or wheeled. We have dedicated facilities from these. We keep them separate from the cars because obviously it is a different product. We try and keep these as close to the quay as you can. As you can see in that picture there, it is right alongside where the vessels pull alongside. We've got a large area. This by far does not work with multi-story of any imagination because of the variation in the size and scale. I mean, you can see in this picture that you've got, you know, here one of the very small telehandlers up to the largest crushers. So very much, it's also specialist equipment that's needed to move. We receive and load quite a lot of rail wagons, both single deck and double deck. Again, we've got specific set areas for that. And again, the key challenge of any rail infrastructure is turnaround time. You know, that we've got to understand that the trains are on a schedule, so the train will come in at a specific time and it's got to leave at a specific time, such to the point that if we haven't unloaded the train, they go back. The train operators won't wait. So we've, again, this is very much like the pad. The learning is get your balance of labor and activity correct. We obviously do break bulk and heavy lift. Again, this is a much more specialist area. You know, as you can see here, we're handling trains. There is a huge infrastructure project in the UK at the moment of updating a lot of the rail infrastructure. So a lot of this is coming out of Japan. So we're receiving rail wagons in various configurations, both for overground and underground operation. This is a very specialist area. Again, it's very human expertise using technology. Again, one of the things that we're looking at in Southampton, which is again is new into the market. Traditionally, we have to measure cargo because obviously people tell us what size things are, but we need to be sure before we put it on the vessel. We're looking at making a piece of technology that will automatically measure the item and will give us in effect a 3D drawing so that it makes life easier for everybody. We do general warehousing within the terminal. We've got 3 warehouses across the terminal, about 10,000 square meters. Again, the key learning from this is port warehousing is only a transit facility. We're not a supermarket warehouse where we've got product sitting around. We need to focus on cargo that keep for the sole and simple reason that we cannot hold cargo on the terminal for a long time. So it does restrict us in, well, I don't think it restricts us, I think it focuses us on the type of customer. I mentioned about technology and we're very kind of keen on this. I don't know whether you're aware, but when a car is moving through the supply chain, when it's handed over from cargo partner to cargo partner, there needs to be a survey done to say, hey, I'm giving you a piece of cargo that is in good condition. Traditionally, that was done by a guy or a girl walking around with a clipboard and their eyes and knowledge, inspecting the vehicle. And that normally takes about 3 or 4 minutes. It's very subjective. Given the English weather, it's restricted because we can't survey in the dark. It's very difficult to survey in the rain. So what we did is in conjunction with a technology company, we've put in these things called photo booths. To put into context, we now have taken a survey down from 3 to 4 minutes to 9 seconds. And basically, as you can see in the picture there, the car drives into what looks like a normal garage. It pulls in, stops. There is then 17 high quality images taken and the car pulls out. And that takes 9 seconds, 8-9 seconds. The beauty of this is those pictures are it takes away all the subjectivity. Because we then put the pictures in the cloud, we can allow cargo surveyors, customers, end customers to just look at those pictures and literally blow them up. I mean, if you imagine the size of a door handle on that particular car, we can blow that up to the size of the screen that we are looking at, to a computer screen. So it makes it much more, it takes a lot of the emotion out of surveying. So that's a real good example of where technology has moved forward and really made a step change for us. As I said, we've built biosecurity facility in Southampton. This is the first one in the UK. So we're going to be the really clever guys who were first in, or the crazy guys who built something that nobody ever needed, depending on where the market goes. We're confident that the UK will be added to this list. There's just no doubt in that. But again, a learning from us is we need to be ahead of the curve. You know, we've made this investment 1 year ahead of the market. It's a big risk, but it actually shows the market that we are already looking at the future and being very cognizant of what is coming along the line. As I said, we run a import center for BMW. It's purpose built. It's handling around 100,000 cargo import cars a year. We can store at any one time 10,000 vehicles, but that is also receiving the vehicles in, prepping them for onward delivery into the dealerships. And it's very focused on the client need. You know, the learning that I would say from that is you're looking for a long-term partnership. You're looking to show the customer that you can innovate and bring in technology. And that's something that we've looked very closely at. So really, that is a whistle-stop tour of Southampton and what we've done. You know, if there's any questions that people have got, I mean, on the wider side, I'd just touch a little bit on Southampton is an interesting situation in the WW network because we are the last port call before the vessels hit long ocean voyage. So the challenge for us is in Southampton is we're challenged with maximizing the opportunity of the space on the vessel. So we work very hard at making sure that our store planning is correct so that we can get the maximum on, because once it leaves us, next stop the US, or, you know, so it's a key focus for us. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what Southampton do, and I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Before the Q&A, I will present a series of short videos from our sponsor.
En Panama Ports iniciamos hace 25 años y hoy somos claves en el crecimiento económico y competitivo del país, siendo el inversionista más grande del sector portuario, generando empleos con los salarios más altos del sector, con pagos directos al Estado y aportes a la economía por 6.000 millones de balboas. Panama Ports ha contribuido a que el país sea un centro marítimo fundamental para el mundo y se convierte en el hub logístico de las Américas. Nuestro compromiso sigue para que cada día el país avance. Panama Ports.
En DEPSA Panamá trabajamos las 24 horas, los 365 días del año. Somos una empresa 100% panameña dedicada a proveer descarga, alimento y despacho de productos a granel, convirtiéndonos en un engranaje de la industria avícola, porcina y ganadera, con la mejor posición geográfica para el manejo de embarques, la terminal granelera más grande y especializada de todo el país. DEPSA Panamá, unidos desde la provincia de Colón, comprometidos con el desarrollo del país.
Now we have a couple of questions for Mr. Baker. According to your experience, is location enough to keep as preferred transshipment ro-ro hub?
Second, is location?
Is location, geographical location, is enough to keep as a preferred transshipment ro-ro hub?
I think it is, yeah, because I mean, when the other thing that's happened in the UK most recently is obviously we've decided to leave the EU, which means now that in effect the UK is pretty much on the same terms of dealing with Europe as Panama is. So we're not in the club anymore, and we believe that gives us a benefit. So in terms of transshipment, I mean, give an example. We're talking to a Japanese manufacturer at the moment that have traditionally brought all their cargo into Europe, And then because the product is in free circulation, the UK has worked. But now they're saying, now that you're not in the EU, we could transship through the UK into Europe, because it puts us on a better fiscal position, because the UK government are looking at things like free ports. So it's actually, you know, we do transship quite a lot of cargo through within our own network, you know, at certain times of the year when some of our sister terminals in Europe are very busy. We will use Southampton as a transshipment. As an example, we may bring Volvos out of Sweden into the UK that will then be transshipped onto US and Oceania voyages.
Okay, how many people are employed by the terminal, direct and indirect jobs?
Indirect, we have, direct, we have, I'm fortunate enough to have 124 other colleagues that work with me, so there's 125 of us. And on any particular day, we could double that number with colleagues from agency labour. So at any one time, we could have 250 people on site.
Okay, what is the profile of the workers in this type of activity?
As I said from the beginning, the port environment is still very much a people business. You know, until we have autonomous cars that drive themselves, we need people to move the cars. So we have I would say we are predominantly operator level. You know, we are craft people who, we have more people that wear overalls than wear ties and shirts. We have a reasonably small management structure. The majority is we've got stevedores, we've got drivers, we've got technicians, and then you move into, we have our own customs team, we have our own forwarding team. So it's a real mix, but it's very, we've got much more people on the ground than we have in office space.
How do you perform training? Is it through SWAT training, or do you have a training division on site?
We tend to do a combination of obviously when anyone joins the business, there's a period of onboarding where they're brought in terms of all our, as I shown earlier on, we show them the culture compass. We talk them through we have a system called Way of Working, and Way of Working is probably the best way of describing it. It's a combination of ISO, so you've got your 9001, your 45001 disciplines, but also lean ways of working. So what we tend to do with people is give them the basic introduction to the company and their basic training for the job they're going to do, and then really look at how we develop them. So, you know, we have people who've come into the terminal as purely a driver, who are now supervisors. So we try and tailor it to their needs, but we tend to use outside agencies. So we'll partner with a local college or a local university or a local technical college to train our people, because we can get them certified. So we'll follow a particular certification. Example, in the UK, we would follow the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers route. We would follow the Institute of Logistics route, so that we can then have a recognized training. And we've got to look at a side that I'm sure, I know WW is a wonderful company, but everyone doesn't want to work for us for the rest of their life. So if we can also give them certification that they can go to someone else that's recognized, we feel that's a good thing as well.
Okay. What are the PDI done at the terminal site instead of local dealers?
What's happened in the UK over the last few years is if you look at some of the cities, use London as an example, the cost of a dealership in London, the physical cost of the land it sits on is immense. So what a lot of the car manufacturers have done is they've tried to bring the preparation of the car back to a single point, and the most logical point is the port. So give an example, a lot of the cars in the UK, when they leave us, they already have the number plates on, they already have all the mats in, or everything. So it's really just easier. And of course, what's starting to happen in the UK as well is the dealerships are now, or the car manufacturers are selling on the internet. So cars will leave us and will actually be delivered to someone's home rather than go through a dealership. So that's part of the model that they're moving to.
What is the key to stay relevant among so many different terminal options in Europe?
Excuse me again?
What is the key to stay relevant among so many different terminal options in Europe?
I think really it's and hopefully I've given you that through the presentation, is stay close to your customer. Try and use innovation, but do the innovation very much from a logical standpoint. You know, a lot of the terminals around the world will take as a fashion something. I would advocate that you need to understand your customer and just make it difficult for the customer to leave. You know, give them things that they don't get anywhere else, at a cost that they don't get anywhere else. And I think that's the relevance that I always look for.
What are customers looking for after COVID-19? Are the demand different or do they remain the same?
I think we've all learned a lot through COVID-19. I think, you know, I don't know about the people in the audience, but we were very much an organization that believed we needed people in offices, we needed people to be somewhere. And what we very quickly had to learn to do was to use technology that we probably had. I mean, we used to say to people, yeah, we have Teams, yeah, but we don't use it, really. Now, I can't live without it. And I think what customers are now looking for is they've had their norm challenged. So, you know, we've got many of our customers now that are manufacturers, that their production people and their management team haven't been into the plant for many months. So I think what we will see coming out of COVID is people more willing to look at different ways of doing things. You know, why do we need an office with 50 people in? You know, why would we pay a 6-figure sum to rent an office that we don't need now? We've proved we don't need it. So I think that's what's going to come out of COVID. And, you know, and I would point everyone to where we've gone with photo booth. You know, we can beam the pictures live from Southampton's photo booth into anyone's home office anywhere in the world. And that is, I think, what's going to come from COVID. It's going to be how to do things smarter.
Well, those are all the questions we have today. Thank you, Mr. Baker, for answering them. Now,
En Panama Ports iniciamos hace 25 años y hoy somos claves en el crecimiento económico y competitivo del país, siendo el inversionista más grande del sector portuario.
En DEPSA Panamá trabajamos las 24 horas, los 365 días del año. Somos una empresa 100% panameña dedicada a proveer descarga, alimento y despacho de productos a granel, convirtiéndonos en un engranaje de la industria avícola, porcina y ganadera. Con la mejor posición geográfica para el manejo de embarques, la terminal granelera más grande y especializada de todo el país. DEPSA Panamá, unidos desde la provincia de Colón, comprometidos con el desarrollo del país.
En Panama Ports iniciamos hace 25 años y hoy somos claves en el crecimiento económico y competitivo del país, siendo el inversionista más grande del sector portuario, generando empleos con los salarios más altos del sector, con pagos directos al Estado y aportes a la economía por 6.000 millones de balboas. Panama Ports ha contribuido a que el país sea un centro marítimo fundamental para el mundo y se convierta en el hub logístico de las Américas. Nuestro compromiso sigue para que cada día el país avance. Panama Ports.
Miss Marie Carmen Barrio would like to give a summary on the similarities that Panama has with Southampton.
Yeah, but before getting into the recap, Michelle, I believe, Paul, we can touch a little bit on the same way you said that we are putting technology in hands of the people. Also, customers are putting new technology in our hands. So would you like to explain a little bit our challenges on the EVs? That is the new technology that we are facing today, and the opportunities that also we have to build competence among our teams?
Yeah, I think EVs are going to really challenge the norm with a lot of things. I mean, you know, it is starting first and foremost with its battery technology, and to allow us to still have all the space that we now become accustomed to in a car, the batteries need to be in the main underneath. That in itself causes a problem, because that is probably one of the most vulnerable points on a car. So one of the challenges for us in terms of shipping cars around the world is to make sure that we can keep that integrity underneath. That also puts challenges on the transporters, because obviously they are moving the cars on and off over ramps. So that again exposes the underneath. So that's one challenge, really, the integrity of the vehicle, just making sure that it transits through our system safely. I think some of the other challenges are, as we've found out to in our challenge, you know, a car can be loaded somewhere in the world as an electric car fully charged. But because you in effect don't switch off an electric car, although you get out and walk away, it still is doing it's a bit like a PC, it's doing lots of background activity. So obviously the challenge you've got is, if it's sailing halfway around the world, what is the battery level going to be like when it gets to the port of discharge? Because unlike a normal petrol engine or diesel engine car, you can't naturally just tow with whatever mechanism an electric car. So those are the challenges as well of how do we handle them in the terminal? How do we also store them? At what level of charge do we put in them? So that we're starting to, it's a whole new world for us in terms of how we process what extensively is, you know, you see a BMW petrol engine car and a BMW electric or hybrid car. They don't look any different, but they handle very differently. So those are some of the challenges that we're starting to see come to us. And also as well, as crazy as it may sound, is getting the guys and girls who move the cars to understand that it won't make a noise. So normally people can sense danger by a high revving car. An electric car doesn't high rev. So it's really simple things like awareness of when you're walking around the terminal. Electric cars don't make a noise, so you need to get your people to be more aware of the surroundings. And these are the softer issues that really we're taking on as on our list of challenges, I think. So I would summarize them really as that.
Yeah, and also, Paul, not all OEMs or manufacturers have the very same technology in each one of their cars. So how there is, as you mentioned, the magic is in the battery, and this is something that they try not to disclose too much, because they are competing among each other. So there is no standardization in the technology of the electric cars. And I believe that any hub in the world, a Southampton or Panama, that really wants to build competence among its people, need to start thinking on this new technology embedded in commodities, and try to get up to speed on what are the needs to handle without sacrificing quality on the units.
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges is, and if I use the analogy of a mobile phone, everybody in the world has a mobile phone. How many people have sat in a meeting saying, "Has anyone got a cable for a Samsung or a Apple or an iPhone, you've got similar situations with electric cars where, yes, they're trying to standardize the connectivity to it, but it isn't there yet. And I think that's the challenge, that every new electric vehicle that comes towards us is a learning curve. And I think that's one of the challenges of, as you say, Maricon, is building up that knowledge bank so that we go, yep, we know what this one's like. We know how the characteristics of this particular vehicle. I think we take for granted that we just all instinctively know a petrol or a diesel engine car, whether it's automatic or it's manual. We just know because we've been around them for so long. Whereas with the EVs, it's very different. It's new. It looks different. You get in and you're looking for a gear stick, a shifter, and there isn't one. So immediately you're disorientated because you're looking for the things that where you've got this a steering wheel and there's a key. There isn't a key. There's no stick shift. Whoa, this is different. And it's getting our people to be comfortable with that. Because particularly, as I said from the beginning, when we're presented with a vessel full of 2,000 EVs, we're not given any extra time to unload them than we are 2,000 normal cars or petrol engine cars. So we need to get that competency quite early on, and that is a challenge.
And let me make you a last question. In the way the different countries around the world start being more mindful about CO2 footprints, and they start turning their fleet into electric trucks or electric buses or electric vehicles, do you believe that in terminals around the world we will have to start hiring software technicians or software engineers instead of mechanics to really troubleshoot units and to allow sustainability in terminal and port operations?
Well, funnily enough, we've just done an exercise with I won't mention the OEM because it'll embarrass them, but we've just worked with a particular OEM where they asked us within 72 hours, could we have up and running a facility where they could come down and reprogram 900 cars because the electronic emissions management system was set for the wrong country. So yes is the answer. I think we will evolve from having our technicians with a socket or a wrench to having a laptop. I think it will change very much so. And as I say, we've just done 900 cars now that literally could not ship because the software on board wasn't programmed for the correct country, which is a point in fact, I think.
So that means, Dr. Candanedo, that this shift in technology will impact or are already impacting our offer in the universities, because we will have to start to include as part of the pensum much more technology and much more programming than what we have today.
Yeah, certainly we need to evolve our academic programs in order to strengthen the IT content within the academic program, so that we can face these challenges of the industry.
Very good. So thank you, Paul. And then, Michelle, I can probably recap. I will do it in Spanish. Para resumir lo que Paul nos ha comentado en la mañana de hoy, nosotros estamos seguros que estamos ante vientos de cambio y por eso tratamos de ser un socio, en el caso de Wallenius Wilhelmsen Group, de nuestros clientes en las diferentes fases que tiene la cadena de suministro. Al igual que Panamá, Southampton está frente al océano, por lo que depende del clima para sus operaciones. Y por ello, para ser más ágiles y eficientes, ellos han puesto tecnología en manos de sus colaboradores en vez de tratar de eliminar recurso humano. En Southampton usamos, como él mencionó, multi-stories, que son estas estructuras que parecen como edificios en donde nosotros podemos incrementar capacidad, porque obviamente los autos, a diferencia de contenedores, no se pueden estivar uno sobre el otro. Y esta es una oportunidad que tendría Panamá para consolidarse como el hub ro-ro de las Américas, de utilizar estructuras similares. La infraestructura ferroviaria igual está habilitada con vagones de vehículos y de high and heavy para poder manejar equipo pesado y automóviles. Eso es algo que nos hace falta aquí en Panamá. Y también el clima que tienen en Southampton y la oscuridad que los restringe durante muchas épocas y muchos meses del año para realizar actividades logísticas. Ellos lo que han hecho para compensarlo, utilizan también la tecnología, y un ejemplo que él nos dio fue el photobooth, que nos ayuda a tener un control de calidad sin necesidad de tener personal necesariamente allí durante un periodo largo de tiempo. Entonces, con todo eso, resumimos lo que últimamente estábamos comentando. Así como nosotros en los terminales ponemos tecnología en manos de nuestros colaboradores, nuestros clientes ponen tecnología en nuestras manos, y uno de los desafíos más grandes que tenemos post pandemia es la gran tendencia que tienen ahora todos los países de cambiar a tecnologías más limpias, tanto en sus flotas de buses urbanos como también en vehículos de pasajeros, y estamos viendo una mayor afluencia de autos eléctricos. Y esto requiere nuevas competencias en los puertos, porque ya no necesitamos un mecánico que esté con una llave y que esté con conocimientos de motores diéseles o de gasolina, sino que ahora lo que necesitamos es conocimientos técnicos que nos permitan poder hacer troubleshooting o poder asistir en el caso de softwares que estén mandando algún tipo de alarmas o que requieran algún tipo de asistencia o mantenimiento. Así que yo siento que hay muchas de las buenas prácticas que tiene Southampton que nosotros podríamos emular, tal y como Panamá lo es el último sitio de relay o de transbordo antes de que muchos de los servicios crucen hacia el canal de Panamá o hacia costa este de Estados Unidos, o que vayan hacia el Cabo de Buena Esperanza para ir luego hacia Suez y hacia Australia. Así que siento yo que este tipo de intercambios, Michelle y doctor Candanedo, que hemos podido tener de ideas hoy con Paul, que nos acompaña desde Inglaterra, es muy beneficioso para que nosotros sepamos qué más podemos hacer y qué otros áreas u horizontes explorar para que nuestra oferta desde las universidades sea la adecuada para que Panamá siga consolidándose como un centro de transbordo de las Américas.
Mari Carmen, señalas puntos bien claves en ese resumen que hiciste sobre las similitudes que hay, que se pueda aplicar a Panamá, o lo que no hace falta. Ya estamos bastante avanzados en tecnología, pero el recurso humano, que como dijo Paul Baker, se requieren técnicos específicos que la universidad puede proveer, acercándose más a la empresa privada y viendo más este intercambio. Y Mari Carmen, mencionaste el tema que nos hace falta, debería la tecnología, esa forma de almacenar, que todavía no tenemos en Panamá, que llueve 9 meses, 10 meses del año, que facilita y puede ayudar. Y también lo del tema de doble estiva en los vagones de ferrocarril, todo eso son cosas que se pueden ver a futuro y que viendo estas prácticas de puertos de Europa podemos aplicar. No sé, pero tenemos que cumplir con lo que hacen posible la transmisión. Vamos un momentito a unos cortos.
En Panama Ports iniciamos hace 25 años y hoy somos claves en el crecimiento económico y competitivo del país, siendo el inversionista más grande del sector portuario, generando empleos con los salarios más altos del sector, con pagos directos al Estado y aportes a la economía por 6.000 millones de balboas. Panama Ports ha contribuido a que el país sea un centro marítimo fundamental para el mundo y se convierte en el hub logístico de las Américas. Nuestro compromiso sigue para que cada día el país avance. Panama Ports.
En DEPSA Panamá trabajamos las 24 horas, los 365 días del año. Somos una empresa 100% panameña dedicada a proveer descarga, alimento y despacho de productos a granel, convirtiéndonos en un engranaje de la industria avícola, porcina y ganadera, con la mejor posición geográfica para el manejo de embarques, la terminal granelera más grande y especializada de todo el país. DEPSA Panamá, unidos desde la provincia de Colón, comprometidos con el desarrollo del país.
Our time is up. We received excellent information from Mr. Barker and Ms. Barrios. Thank you both for sharing your knowledge and experience. And thank you to the viewers for staying connected during this live transmission.
Good day.